I have the great pleasure of introducing our final artist this evening. He too has done work that uses the word bridge in many ways, and I think that's been a through line this evening. A California native, Llewellyn Sanchez Werner began his first college degree at the age of 5 as a full-time student at Ventura College. I'll let him explain more about that later. He began his piano studies at age 2, and by the age of 6 made his orchestral debut as a soloist. He made Juilliard history as the youngest ever admittee at 14 to the bachelor's degree and at 18 to the master's degree, where he's the proud recipient of a prestigious Kovner Fellowship. The National Foundation for the Advancement in the Arts awarded Llewellyn the only Young Arts Gold Medal for music in 2015. He's performed as a soloist at the White House for President Obama, as well as for the presidential inauguration concert for President Obama at the Kennedy Center. And he recently won the Gilmore Young Artist Award, given every 2 years. And I quote, "He has been considered the most promising American pianist of the new generation." To me, Llewellyn embodies the idea of an artist activist, and like Mariella, he uses his training as a musician to raise awareness of causes that are important to him. Through his artistic endeavors and in order to excite more youth about classical music, he has performed 16 concerts for 20,000 North American students. Watch out, cats. And for an anti-bullying campaign, he performed Beethoven and the Bully for 6,000 students. Llewellyn was the first American soloist to perform with the Iraqi National Symphony Orchestra in Iraq in a concert that raised funds to support the Children's Cancer Hospital and celebrated World Day for Cultural Diversity. In Rwanda, he performed for President Paul Kagame and economic leaders to help Rwandans continue rebuilding from the 1994 genocide. Please join me in welcoming Llewellyn.
Well, it really is a pleasure to be here with you tonight, and especially to have witnessed such incredibly inspiring stories from the two people before me. I am really thrilled to be here with you, and I think both of your work really emboldens all of us to strive to do more for humanity and to try to transcend cultural and political barriers through the arts, or whatever our professions may be. It's really a pleasure to be spending this time with both of you. I have to say that right now, we have a great many reasons to question the importance of arts in society as a whole. At a time when the elimination of massive amounts of funding to the National Endowment of the Arts is right around the corner, at a time when it is not as politically advantageous to be a supporter of the arts as maybe it was during the JFK or LBJ administrations. At a time when the funding that goes to arts in schools pales dramatically in comparison to the funding that goes in even to military bands. And so I guess we must wonder, how relevant are the arts in society? And of course, my argument is that they are incredibly relevant because at their core, the arts are meant to serve people. They're meant to be a reflection of society. They're meant to unite society, to bridge barriers, and to promote common understanding, mutual depth, and in understanding and in relationships. And I think that in classical music, there are so many examples. There's really a rich tradition of these kinds of endeavors taking place, but it isn't just in classical music, it's in all art forms. And that's why I think Carla's theme tonight of bridging two worlds is so very apt, because we are, in fact, bridging many worlds. I, for one, feel that I bridge many worlds of my heritage. I was born in California, as you said, and I have spent a decade each in California and in New York, but I have heritage from Mexico, Wales, Poland, Germany, several European Jewish countries. The borders are always changing. And And I of course am American, but I also bridge the world between being that and then thinking about all of being proud of my heritage and where I came from. I think of how we are bridging worlds in between disciplines in the arts. Tonight, health and fitness, classical music, other times dance, drama, within music, jazz, opera, hip hop, all kinds of genres. And of course, how we're bridging the world between what we do in the practice room, what we do when we're preparing our work at home, and then when we go out and share it to the public, and what kind of changes we can make. So in this regard, I would like to share a few of the examples that have inspired me of times when, in classical music, there has been such a focus on social engagement. Many of you might know the conductor Daniel Barenboim, who actually is an incredibly famous and tremendously soulful and marvelous pianist. But as a conductor, he founded the West Eastern Divan project along with Palestinian-American Edward Said. And that, which took place in Seville, in Spain, allowed for young Israelis and Arabs to collaborate in the same stage, on the same stage, to promote understanding between those two cultures and religions, and to really wither away the stereotypes and replace them with a certain kind of dialogue and uniting quality. I think of the Cafe Society, which was founded by Barney Josephson, I think in the late 30s. And while uptown in the Cotton Club in Harlem, black performers had to enter through the service entrance, even if they were performing. Here, there was a sense of racial integration that was strongly promoted, liberal discourse. It was actually, it's funny, you mentioned Nina Simone as one of the people who the video was dedicated to. I know that she sang Strange Fruit absolutely wonderfully, and the original singer of that, Billie Holiday, premiered Strange Fruit in this very stage, the Cafe Society, before it was shut down by McCarthyism, unfortunately. I also think of times when a composer like the Mexican Carlos Chavez was able to sort of be an ambassador for his country. I think of when he was befriending Aaron Copland and Leonard Bernstein in New York. Actually, Copland wrote El Salón Mexico based on Chavez when he gave Norton lectures at Harvard, when his compositions, because of the special way that they really used the structural rhythmic themes of native Aztec and Mexican music, but combined them with the traditions of Western music, were able to allow him to have his music be shared all across the world, and for the people then to develop a different understanding of what Mexican culture might be like, the same way if they were appreciating the art of Diego Rivera or of Carlos Fuentes or of so many others. And all of these are the examples, and so many more, by the way, that really inspire me to, in my own work, want to similarly be an artist as citizen. Separate from just the wondrousness of the piano in itself, which is enough for a lifetime, or really for 2 lifetimes. I mean, we know that at its core, music touches us in wonderful places, that it allows us to be nostalgic, to recall things, to relate to things, and there is a sublimation and a transcendence to it that alone is enough, art for art's sake. But what else can we do with it off of the stage? And for this reason, a few years ago, I went to Iraq, as Carla mentioned, to work with the Iraqi National Symphony Orchestra. And this was a truly, truly courageous group of people. Even though as society as a whole was accepting them, there were violent extremists who regularly threatened them. So actually, we were driven through the red zone in flak jacket and helmet to rehearsals, and the conductor had a pistol in his vest during both the dress rehearsal and the performance. That was definitely a first. But the instrumentalists would conceal their instruments in containers that didn't look like instrument cases, so they wouldn't be discovered with Western instruments on the street, because any form of artistic self-expression, but especially that coming from the West, did receive a great deal of threats. And yet, in this performance, there were Iraqi compositions, there were American compositions, including one by a Jewish-American composer. Also, I think Rimsky-Korsakov and Grieg. We had an opportunity to, through our universal language of music, share certain commonalities and bridge those barriers, perhaps change the stereotypes we had of each other's countries and of the incredibly dissonant and turbulent times that those two countries have had recently, and hopefully be better people as a result of it. And I know it was an honor to work with them, as much as it was an honor to spend time with school children in the United States and in Canada. We know that Beethoven had an abusive father, and we thought that, Boris Brott, a conductor, and I thought that that was a relatable story for many children who might be receiving abuse either at home or at school. So we were able to weave together a story of an anti-bullying campaign in which there was performing, but there was also a great deal of dialogue with students and with kids in order to use music as a healing mechanism and as a bonding mechanism for many kids who are going through such experiences. And this kind of music, this kind of work means so much to me because I really feel that we have a duty to serve the community as a whole. We have a duty to think much less selfishly than just our own careers and just the art in itself. We have an opportunity to really make larger change, and that is why I'm thrilled to be here with so many people who share this vision tonight. I know that the Canales project is one that is absolutely remarkable. I know that Carla has tirelessly devoted herself to supporting the arts in general, to young artists, to this kind of arts advocacy, and to be uniting with her tonight is definitely a great pleasure. And I guess I will leave by saying that when Winston Churchill was asked during World War II if he should cut arts funding in favor of funding the war effort, he responded, "Well, then what are we fighting for?" And I think that couldn't be more true. I want to move on to the music and just introduce the pieces that I'll be performing very briefly. I'll be starting with Bach's Chromatic Fantasy, which is a work that, honestly, I think features a duel of sorts between reason and anarchy, between irrationality and rationality, because there are many tempestuous scales that are tumultuous and chaotic and dramatic, but are then followed by more decisive and conclusive and perhaps more tender gestures. And the two characters, as they battle throughout, seemingly have a victor at the end, but that's up for interpretation. And then followed by playing Chopin's C minor Nocturne. Now, the Nocturne is just one of the many forms that Polish composer Chopin composed so well, and the Nocturne is evocative of the night. So you'll hear a theme. Recited rather plaintively and tenderly at the opening, but then returning in full passionate force at the end and double the tempo and in an entirely different texture. And then follow that with two short pieces of Gershwin. The first of which is very, very rarely heard. It's called Rubato. I actually discovered it by accident a couple of years ago just when reading, and I really love it. And then the other is I Got Rhythm and Earl Wild's Etude Variations on them. Earl Wild was a virtuosic pianist who actually premiered much of Gershwin's music, but was an incredible artist in his own right. And in any case, I really hope that you enjoy them. Thank you so much.